champions facing the Clippers for the first time since the Spurs swept the Clippers in the 2012 conference semifinals. Since March 18th, the Clippers and Spurs have gone a combined 27-3. The Clippers have the best record over this stretch, while the Spurs are tied with the 67-win Warriors for the second best record over this time. The Power Index gives the Spurs a 60% chance to win this series, Stephen A. We're talking about your Clippers. You picked them to win the West. Who wins the series?
Well, that pick has just been rescinded. The fact is that happened a long time ago when we watched the Clippers struggle the way that they struggled. Jamal Crawford is back. That's a very, very big deal. But I can't. This is the Clippers' kryptonite. Not Memphis, not Golden State, even though Golden State, they should be favored in the series if they favor the Clippers. But this is the Clippers' kryptonite because the Clippers have two issues. They do have defensive lapses, even though they've improved upon that recently. And free throws are a problem with them because you have DeAndre Jordan on your squad. So you have somebody for Popovich to employ the hack-a-shack philosophy against, and he will unquestionably do it. He did it last night with a Sheik, midway through the fourth quarter. Okay? He will definitely employ that.
By the way, he got a Sheik out of the game, too.
That's right.
They had no choice.
They had no choice. Yeah. So you got to do that with a guy. If you're going to do that with a Sheik, you're definitely going to do that with a guy shooting 39% from the free throw line in DeAndre Jordan. And that's why I can't pick the Clippers to win this series. Boy, do I hope I'm wrong, because I would love for the Clippers to go to the finals. I really, really would, for various reasons. But I got to tell you, in all objectivity, I can't pick them to win this series because you're going up against a champion who's been there, who's done that, and more importantly, who knows how to play the game of basketball. They're just too poised. And when I look at DeAndre Jordan, a guy I believe could easily be the best big man in the game if he could simply hit free throws. He can't do it. He's formidable defensively. He's going to get his rebounds, but he doesn't give you a post game offensively, and he doesn't give you free throw shooting. Spencer Hawes, that's the reason I picked the Clippers to come out of the West in preseason, because Spencer Hawes was supposed to get there. He was supposed to give you something where he can step away from the basket, be a perimeter threat, thereby pulling big men away from the basket, giving CP3 room to operate. Well, now that's not happening, and that's a problem.
By the way, he averaged 6 points a game in 18 minutes a game.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Okay. So he just hasn't lived up to it, and so they know it. It can be very interesting. CP3 is going to have to step up. The key also is Blake Griffin. We're always talking about DeAndre Jordan. Blake Griffin's got to step up and play like a superstar in order for the Clippers to win this series. If I have to bet my money, I have to go with San Antonio to win this series in 6 games.
In 6. Wow.
I have to do it because I can't sit there and give the Clippers an edge when I know Popovich is going to either send Jordan to the free throw line or get him out of the game because you got to send him to the free throw line. I can't do it. Can't do it.
Okay. You mentioned his name.
Oh, boy.
And I'm bringing him back up because I think this is a career-defining series for CP3. I think it begins and ends with him and how he performs against a guy who has been his nemesis in the past, and Tony Parker. That's the matchup to me of this series, and I get all your hack at DeAndre stuff and all that. But the Clippers have had a very good year despite Hawes' lack of production. And Chris Paul has had a very good year. But now he will turn 30 years of age in May. He has never been out or beyond the second round of the playoffs. So you get on me, I nicknamed him last year CP0 because not only does he have 0 rings, as in 0 hardware, he doesn't even have a consolation certificate. He hasn't even been to the conference final one time where you say, well, at least I got to... No, you didn't get to the conference final. Was this a bad break for him to draw Tony Parker and company in the first round? You could argue. You could argue it's a good break because maybe this is it. Maybe this is your time, Chris Paul, to rise and shine for the first big time in your life, where it's your time and your turn. For the first time in his career, he played all 82 games. So I'm assuming he's very healthy right now, both physically and mentally. He led the league in assists again. He ranks 3rd all-time in assists, which is pretty great. He ranks 2nd all-time in assist to turnover ratio. That is spectacular. These are big time, as you know, these are Hall of Fame numbers I'm giving you. but I don't have anything to show for him beyond the second round of the playoffs. So I look back at last year. What happened in round one? They beat this Golden State team. Now, it had a different coach.
Yeah.
I'm not going there, but I'm just saying. They beat Golden State despite the distractions of their owner and the race issue, right? They beat them with exactly the same starting lineup the Clippers have right now. The starting lineup did not change. You can talk about depth or lack thereof, but nothing changed in the starting lineup. They beat them in 7 games, the Golden State Warriors. So I could say that right now you're on a collision course with the team that you did beat last year in the playoffs. Is that fair? I mean, okay. And yet, what happened in round 2? Right on schedule. Game 5 at Oklahoma City. Do you remember this one? I think it still sticks in the craw of CP3 and his teammates because they were up in that game 11 at Oklahoma City with 4 minutes to go. They were up 7 with 49 seconds to go. In the last 13 seconds of that game 5 at Oklahoma City, the turnaround turning point game of that series, Chris Paul went turnover, foul Russell Westbrook shooting a 3, and he made all 3 free throws, and another turnover at the end of the game. Well, that's, you self-destructed. That's Chris Paul we are talking about, and it's a stain on your legacy because they went right home and lost game 6, and they were out. Okay? Now it's time to rise and shine against a Tony Parker who I've always thought had a little edge over Chris Paul. And now let me throw one last thing at you. I was told yesterday, Tony Parker is very upset with me. And I get it, because I've been very hard on him this year. So I'm going to challenge him and Chris Paul. This is you two guys. It's mano a mano, night after night. Tony Parker, prove me wrong. I think you've been mostly awful this year, although you did have a good first half last night. I give you that. But Tony, prove me wrong. Shut me up. You say I no longer supported you this year the way I have. I have raved about Tony Parker in the past. Have I not? On opening night this year when they beat the Dallas Mavericks,
you thought
I came
he was
in
the MVP.
and I said he was the best point guard in basketball, and you agreed with me on that night. Remember? Yeah. That was the big thing. Charles Barkley had said it on TNT the night before. Okay, Tony, prove me wrong. I'm waiting to see what you'll do, because now you've got the matchup of the lifetime. This is you versus Chris Paul, first round of the playoffs, to see who survives.
You and I disagree. And here's where we disagree, and we continue to part ways on this. You are absolutely right with what you pointed out about CP3 against Oklahoma City in that game 5, those last 4.5 minutes. There's no question about it. That was disastrous. We all know that. And that can't happen. And if that does happen, then you're right. That's on CP3. My problem with you is that if CP3 drops 35 and has 17 assists and has limited turnovers and he does what he's supposed to do, you will still point the finger at him in terms of what he didn't get done. And what I am saying to you is that when you are literally a quintessential prototypical point guard, that is not your job. That is not your responsibility. Now, in fairness to you, Isaiah Thomas would agree with you more than he would agree with me, because he has. But here's where Isaiah Thomas and I part ways on that. Isaiah Thomas was a bad, bad boy. But guess what Chuck Daly and those boys in Detroit had to do? They had to get the Vinnie Microwave Johnson.
They did.
They had to get the Joe Dumars. They had to get the Bill Lambiers, the Rick Mahorns, the John Sallies, the Adrian Dantleys, and then after that, the Mark Aguirres. They had a crew of dudes.
But they had one big star.
Well, I understand that. But what I'm saying to you is the one big star couldn't get over the hump because he was going against elite teams in the Eastern Conference with devoid of help. Why? Because the same responsibility that is attached to a Michael Jordan, 6'6", a LeBron James, 6'8", a Kobe Bryant, 6'6", scoring machines and stuff like that. When you are the quintessential, prototypical, minuscule, relatively minuscule point guard, there's a different standard that is applied to you. Chris Paul, to be kind, is 6 feet tall. He is literally not a scorer who plays point guard. He is a literal point guard who happens to be able to score. This is what you are, an orchestrator. You are a floor general. So to me, I can't leave out. I can't put the onus on him to such a degree that I'm letting off Blake Griffin. You averaging 21 and 7. You had the staph infection. That's over and done with. Blake Griffin at one time early in the season we were talking about as an MVP candidate. Where are you? He's got to show up too. Because if Blake Griffin plays like the star he's supposed to be. Last time I checked, he's getting big dollars.
Yeah.
He's a box office attraction. He's a guy that has all the requisite skills. I can't look at a CP3. I got to look at him and say, yo, you got to play. You got to do your job. But if CP3 comes out there and balls, but Blake Griffin or DeAndre Jordan and them cats don't show up, I can't point the finger at him like that, Skip. I could do that with teams with a guy like LeBron who's a freak of nature, with a Jordan who's a freak of nature, with a Kevin Durant who's a freak of nature. I can sit there and look at you and hold you accountable because you have the ability to literally take a game into your own hands as an individual. A miniature point guard like Chris Paul is devoid of that capability in the land of giants. He can have the night like that, but to carry it like that, nah, you can't ask him to do that.
Did Allen Iverson carry it?
No. Allen Iverson can carry it, but Allen Iverson was a scoring machine.
Sure.
I said point guard who happens to know how to score, not a scorer who's labeled a point guard. Allen Iverson, he was great. What happened when he ran into Kobe and Shaq? You understand? Now, I watched him go. I watched him go through Vince Carter in Toronto with an epic series. That's the greatest moments of my career. Sitting courtside watching these boys go at it. Then the Eastern Conference Finals, you went up against Ray Allen, Big Dog, and my man Sam Cassell, okay, who's on the Clippers bench, who's in CP's ear, who's going to be a head coach someday, and because he's going to be great, too. I watched Allen Iverson go through that. Well, what did I say? Had the Philadelphia people in the city of Philadelphia calling an inquiry to get me fired because they said, "What's Stephen A? So, all right, what's the Sixers' chances of winning this series?" And I said, "Nothing, absolutely zero." They were like, "Why?" I said, Shaq, and more Shaq. Shaq was in his prime. And then you had Kobe. Kobe was the sidekick at the time. This is Kobe we talking about here. What you gonna do? You can't ask CP3 to deal with that.
Okay, I'm not going to give him a pass this time.
I'm not giving him a pass.
All right. They've played 4 times this year, the Spurs and the Clippers. Spurs won the first 2, one at L.A. early on November 10th. They lost the last 2. One at San Antonio, one at the Clippers. In the last 3 games, Chris Paul against my Spurs scored 25, 20, and 22. And in the last game at the Clippers won 119 to 115 by the home team. Chris Paul in the 22-point game hit a huge jumper with 1:10 left, and then he hit one with 8 seconds left to ice the game, really to win the game. So he is capable of making big shots in big moments. So that's what I hold him accountable. I want to see that.
But
I want to see if it's a close game, take it over.
And I'm saying to you, that's fair. Tell me that the Clippers are in a position to do it and that the ball is in CP's hands. I understand that. What I'm saying to you is don't come to me with preconceived notions about what Chris Paul is supposed to do, devoid of pointing out what Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan and those cats are supposed to do. Those are the guys. Tim Duncan is on the front line. What you going to do about that, Blake Griffin? Tim Duncan is on the front line. What you going to do that about? DeAndre Jordan is averaging 15 rebounds a game and nearly 3 blocks. What you going to do against Tim Duncan?
April 25th, Tim Duncan turns 39 years of age. Just for the record, 39 years of age. And speaking of numbers, I am picking my Spurs in 7 games in this series. I say they will win Game 7 at the Clippers. That's what I'm predicting.
Stephen A says they'll win in 6.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's going to be epic.
You do you really?
Epic.
Because you want to be in Southern California.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So wait, if you
it's not just about residents. It's about I'm also rooting for CP3.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, I want him to advance deep. I want him in the conference finals or possibly in NBA finals. I want that bad for him because I think he deserves it.
I'm rooting for Tony Parker. Thank you.
Well, Tony Parker already has for him.
That's okay. He deserves another one.
CP3, Tony Parker. Russell Westbrook, what about that one? He wins his first NBA scoring title, but he says he couldn't care less. Is that true? We discuss after the break.